In Cleveland, Ohio, rests the veteran of World War II. USS Cod, SS-224, serves as a memorial to all the brave submariners who fought through to victory in the Pacific. We met with USS Cod Submarine Memorial President Paul Farace, who graciously gave us a tour of the boat.
In the middle of the war, there were a lot of unresolved issues. Like, for instance, they wanted to get the boats in the water as quickly as possible. And although there were battle lessons being learned that came right back to the shipyards from the front lines, certain things were improved and changed to meet those challenges that, the lessons we were learning. But some things that were holdovers from the old days, they didn't bother to change them because to change would require them to maybe slow down production a day or two. So case in point, this door, all fleet boats going back to the very first Cachalot class in 1934 had this door because their conning towers had a door. Now, you know the difference between a door and a hatch?
A hatch is a sealed tight?
No, they're all sealed. It's okay, there are submariners that don't know the difference. A door, the hinge of a door is perpendicular to the deck, okay? The hinge of a hatch is parallel with the deck. See, a hatch opens this way, a door opens like a door. So anyway, they had a door like the one you walked into in the fort to get into the escape trunk. There was a door here, not on us, but on previous boats. And this was how the gun crew would rush out to man the deck gun. Now, normally you loaded torpedoes from a dockside crane, but you could retrieve a torpedo from the water using that davit and reload it into the boat. And all right, the ladder isn't part of it, but that is, I believe, well, we might be missing a part or two, but that's these two big long pipes here. That's our recovery davit. And it'd be nice someday to maybe pull that out, but we're gonna need 10 strong men and a midget, to get in and frankly, so that's not likely gonna happen anytime soon. But for the most part, I think it's all there. Let's go inside. And this, of course, is an airlock that would allow 4 crewmen to leave the boat if we're stuck on the bottom, or perhaps they might be frogmen. They'll leave through the door there. It's, again, door, hatch.
Slowly coming in.
The American fleet sub is a big boat. Not the biggest. We certainly know those Japanese I-boats were monsters. In fact, I saw a picture of some of the captured I-boats at Pearl Harbor after the war. These are the ones that were built to carry some airplanes. And there's a fleet boat like us. I mean, it looks like a little toy next to these 3 giant monsters. So certainly we're not that big, but big submarines are slow to dive and slow to maneuver, You don't necessarily need a sports car underwater, but you want to be able to maneuver quickly and certainly dive quickly. We can dive in 38 seconds, which is pretty fast for a good-sized boat. But if you notice the bullet holes up on deck, 38 seconds wasn't always fast enough. Do you want to get a picture? Do we stuff some kids in the tube?
Sure.
All right, who wants to be in the tube? All right, and I'm going to spot you, okay? That means make sure you don't clang your head. Here, right here, there's a better grip there. Okay, ready, John? Up, up, get a foot in there. Oh my God, look at the nimbleness of this guy. Now, turn around, face this way. Now, you don't shut down operations at 6 o'clock and say, that's it for the day. Enemy, we'll catch you in the morning. No. You have to be ready for duty at any time, 24 hours a day. So at any one time, 1/3 of the crew is on duty, 1/3 is asleep, and 1/3's in the way. Come on in the wardroom. Have a seat. The wardroom. Wardroom. Have a seat. Now, having a seat on a hot day in July, you know, sticky vinyl, it's not so bad. So yeah, the wardroom, it's a nice place to be an officer. You don't want to get called to the wardroom if you're an enlisted man. Getting called to the wardroom is like being called to the principal's office. Now, are you guys homeschooled? No? Do you go to regular school? Do you ever get called to the principal's office? Be honest. No?
No.
It's once a week, the captain would hold captain's mast. And that's for all the guys that had done something they shouldn't have done. You know, their division chiefs would write up a chit, and you were called, and the captain might sit here or he might sit there. You stood here, and he said, okay, Seaman 3rd Class Jones, on Thursday last week, you were 20 minutes late to, you know, man your station. What do you have to say for yourself? And, you know, if you had an excuse, maybe you got some easy treatment. If you were a habitual, then he'd say, you know, you're going to be restricted to the boat when we come back from patrol. Or maybe we're in port, and maybe the weekend's coming up, and he's going to say, you're not getting liberty. Ooh, can't go ashore. Anyway, but for the most part, it's a nice place. They're eating the same food as the enlisted men. They're just eating it off of fancier china. Hey, Tony. Yeah, this has been a very difficult campaign. So, given the fact that it is 2:25 in the afternoon, what color light would we normally be using in here? White light. White light. We only use the red light at night so that when we go up in the darkness, our eyes are adjusted immediately to the darkness. Otherwise, it would take 20, maybe 30 minutes. The older you get, the longer it takes for your eyes to adjust to darkness. So, even though we have radars, and remember, these boats are on the surface most of the time. 95% of the time on our later patrols, we're surfaced. So, we show you how it looks at nighttime because it's cool to have the red light. So over in the corner we have the Christmas tree. The official name is the hull opening indicator board, but that's too long of a name. Submariners call it the Christmas tree for obvious reasons, red and green lights. So we dive, we make what we call a running dive. So we're moving forward, and two of the lookouts are taking positions at the bow and stern planes. There's a picture right there of two of our lookouts. Now, their job is to control the bow plane wings and the stern plane wings. They're back aft on either side of the rudder. Okay, they're always rigged out. The bow planes rig out only when we dive. Okay, so they're going to control the steepness of the dive. Now, we don't want to dive too steep because the props come out of the water. It'll slow us down. We want to dive with 8, 9, maybe 10 degree down angle, which you would know that you've got an 8, 9, or 10 degree down angle. We'd be standing here and we'd be like leaning forward because the boat's kind of funny. But it's not like a modern nuclear submarine. Well, they will do angles and dangles, but they're built and intended to do that. We don't want to do that. So 8, 9, 10 degree down angle maximum. You don't want to go too deep because the Cod is a Gato class boat. We are the last of the thin-skin boats, so I'm going to use my water bottle as a analog for our pressure hull. So roughly 300 feet, the length of the submarine underwater, we are good. The test depth is 300 feet. Our pressure hull is just slightly more than ½ an inch of mild steel, which means that 300 feet, test depth, okay, beyond that you void the warranty, but the deep water gauge is calibrated to 450 feet, so there's some wiggle room. By the way, at 200 feet, the hull is making some interesting, scary noises. It's making crackling and groaning noises, scaring the hell out of the new guys. But anyway, we've been down, as I told you, below 450 accidentally. At least the bow compartment was, because we had a Japanese plane drop a bomb that exploded under our stern. So it knocked us up like that as we were diving. So we're not diving at a 10-degree down angle. We probably were diving at a 40, 50-degree down angle. And very quickly, you go below test depth. And we figure the forward room was probably 600, maybe a little more than 600 feet. And the pressure down there squeezed the hull enough that it warped the toilet enclosure. And our engineering officer, who at battle stations would be seated where I am, but he was off duty, so he had to go to the bathroom. So he's in the officer's head, and he heard the diving alarm and the collision alarm go off simultaneously. That's not good. That means we're diving, and close all the watertight doors because a bomb is going to go off. And sure enough, that bomb went deep under our stern, exploded, lifted us up, and very quickly we're at a 50-degree down angle. He's holding on the walls of the toilet there, and he said, I don't want to die here. But he couldn't get the door open, couldn't get out of the toilet until these guys got a hold of the dive and brought the boat up to a safe depth, because the pressure was squeezing and deforming the door frame. The attack center. It's a pressure vessel like this, right above, and we're going to allow you a special treat. You have to stay on the ladder, but we're going to take the barrier down. You can get a little higher. You can see a real good view of where we launch torpedoes. Now, there's 2 periscopes up there, the radar, the sonar, and the torpedo data computer, and the main steering station. This is the auxiliary or emergency steering. If we're attacking at night, up to 11 men are going to be up there. If we're attacking underwater, rather. If we're attacking on the surface at night, 8 guys up there, the rest are up on the bridge.
Welcome to the crew's mess area. This is where the crew of up to 97 men would be taking all of their meals, 4 meals a day, all cooked in that small little galley that you passed on the way in. I don't know how they did it, cooking for all those men, because I make a meal for 2 people and every counter space is full up. So they must have had some real organizational skills. But if you'd like to know what they eat, right in front of you on the desk here is a sample weekly menu that they would serve up, and there's some really good food on there.
So again, 36 bunks, about a dozen would be occupied at any one time. The new guys who hadn't earned their dolphin pins, they would have to hot rack on the main Broadway here. So 3 guys would be assigned to 2 bunks. Four mains and an 8-cylinder auxiliary under the deck between the 2 aft main engines. Yeah, these are V16 GM diesels, so 8 cylinders on each side. The auxiliary, basically they cut one of the ends, they cut it, but it's half the bank. The diesels drive 1,100 kilowatt DC generators. The auxiliary turns a 300 kilowatt DC generator. The diesels are only making electricity. Come on in, folks. As I said earlier, these boats are mostly on the surface. 90% of the time or more, you're on the surface and you're running your diesels to make electricity. There are electric motors, 2 for each of the 2 propeller shafts, so there's 4 electric motors. They're always turning the props, but on the surface they get their electricity from the diesel generators. Underwater they get their power from batteries. hand drive system that we developed during just before World War II allows the electricians to do both. Recharge the batteries and drive us through the water simultaneously. We can divvy up the power 50-50, 90-10, whatever the situation demands. We are doing it through switching gear in the cage in the next compartment. It is cramped, so we're talking about it here. At the back end of the cage, you'll see some levers. And that's how you control the power distribution. The electricians get a couch. I mean, my God, ice cream makers, air conditioning, and couches for the electricians' mates. There'll be a sign-up sheet on the way out to join the Navy. Yes. And our Sebastian Brothers lathe, which we actually use to make parts. Yeah, because if you move a lever, we don't always know how to move it back. This is the switchboard, and this is how the captain is sending his speed commands to the starboard propeller shaft and the port propeller shaft. Come on in, we can get real friendly. And especially if you're a pickpocket, you might earn a few dollars. Anyway, so the motor order telegraphs, the white arrow will spin around and stop at whatever speed he wants the shaft to turn at. We'll match it with our red arrow and ring the box either in the control room or the conning tower. And then we will set the levers accordingly. Basically, the two outboard levers are literally ahead or reverse. And then the others control the generator output. Down below this gray box is the reduction gear. The rusty telephone pole sticking out of it is the starboard propeller shaft. Why two boxes and not just one unitary? Because you might want to go full ahead on one shaft and full reverse on the other to get a real tight turn.
USS Cod SS-224 was built by the Electric Boat Company in 1942 and launched in 1943. Cod was commissioned on 21 June 1943 and arrived in Australia on 2 October 1943 to prepare for her first war patrol. Cod completed 7 war patrols and was awarded 7 battle stars, as each patrol was deemed a success. Cod only lost 1 crew member during World War II. A memorial to Andrew Johnson can be found in the after torpedo room. USS Cod is credited with the only international sub-to-sub rescue in history when she saved the crew of the Dutch submarine 019 as she was stuck on a reef. If you would like to support the USS Cod Submarine Memorial, click on the link in the description below. Please be sure to click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons, and join us next time as we go on another American history adventure.